Motorola's G line of smartphones is widely acknowledged as a harbinger of today's dog-eat-dog world of affordable smartphones. Does the third iteration of this family fill the immense footprints of its siblings? Does it surpass them or does it fall flat? That's what we hope to find out in this video. Hey guys, this is Ramesh from C4E Tech. This is my full review of the Moto G 2015. Let's get started. As always, let's start with the build and design. To the front, up top, we have the earpiece, sensors and a 5-megapixel front-facing camera. Lower below, we have a 5-inch Gorilla Glass 3 covered IPS LCD display. Below which, we have the speakers. Flipping the phone over, the back is made out of textured plastic that actually feels quite nice in the hand. We have the traditional Motorola dimple that we have all come to love, and a 13-megapixel rear camera with a dual-tone LED flash above that. The back is user removable, but the battery is not. The back pops open to reveal two micro SIM card slots and a micro SD card slot. Please take care to properly click the back in, as the phone's fabled IPX7 water resistance would not work otherwise. Up top, we have the secondary noise cancelling microphone and a 3.5mm headphone jack. We have nothing to the left. To the bottom, we have the micro USB charging port. The right houses the power button and the volume rockers. The Moto G 2015 does seem well built, and single-handed usage is possible at most times. The textured plastic and the naturally rounded back helps with grip, and the phone feels great in hand. If you notice, the Moto G does not have stereo speakers. The one on the top is just a earpiece. But the front-facing speaker is quite decent and the call quality was pretty good. Audio via the headphone jack was also pretty good. Let's now talk about that display. The third generation Moto G also sports a Gorilla Glass 3 covered IPS LCD display that has a 720p resolution and a pixel density of 294 pixels per inch. The colors are accurate and the contrast adequate. It has surprisingly good viewing angles. This is a decent panel for the price, although is no work of art. The screen does get quite bright and therefore is visible outdoors under direct sunlight. Moving on, let's talk specs. This Moto G is powered by the 64-bit Snapdragon 410 chipset that's clocked higher than on most devices. The 4 Cortex A53 cores are clocked at 1.4 GHz here. Most Snapdragon implementations have them clocked at 1.2. Adreno 306 handles the GPU duties and there is 2 gigs of RAM. There's also another variant that has 1 gig of RAM and 8 gigs of internal storage. This Moto G benchmarks decently. The Snapdragon 410 chip holds its own against most casual games and even manages to run a few intensive titles smoothly. Keep in mind this is a mid-end chip at best, so intensive titles may require you to tone down the graphical settings. Moving on, we get to the camera. A double twist of the wrist takes you into the camera. Let me get this out of the way. This is one of the coolest and the most reliable gestures I've ever used. The Sony IMX214 sensor touting 13-megapixel rear camera on the Moto G is good. It has an f/2.0 aperture. But first, let's take a look at the camera UI. This is traditional Motorola camera software, extremely minimalistic and easy to use. Modes like the panorama and HDR are present and accounted for. You have a ring to adjust the exposure and focus. Tapping anywhere on the viewfinder would snap a picture. Now, the pictures shot with this camera are decent with adequate amounts of detail and color fidelity erring on the warmer side, just a little bit. The dynamic range is nothing to write home about, but the shutter speed's fast. This is a decent camera for the price. It's also capable of shooting 1080p videos and the results were adequate. There is a lot of details thanks to the sensor and colors were okay as well. The 5-megapixel front-facing shooter performs similarly. All in all, a very respectable camera experience for the price. Next up, let's talk about the battery life. The battery life has always been the mainstay of this bloodline of devices. The Moto G original was stellar. The second generation was equally good. And I'm happy to report that the third generation also follows suit with its 2470 mAh non-user replaceable battery by delivering excellent battery life. On the 7 days that I used this phone, I got about 4 hours of screen on time and excellent standby drain. To put that into numbers, on a looping video playback test, the Moto G3 lasted for 9.5 hours before running out of juice. Moving on, we get to the software. The Moto G at the time of this review runs on Android 5.1 Lollipop with Motorola Skin on top. This, for all intents and purposes, is bone stock Android with some enhancements that add to the user experience rather than bog it down. In typical Motorola style, the software comes with a few features that work perfectly and accurately. The active notifications make using this phone a pleasure. When the phone is picked up or pulled out of the pockets, the screen partially lights up to show you your notifications at a glance. From where, you can jump into the app by swiping up. If you want to clear the notifications, you can swipe to the side, or if you want to just unlock, swipe down. Neat. Next, we have the double chop to turn on the flashlight. This works as advertised. And we have already seen the double twist to enter the camera. Then, there's the Moto Suite. that offers real value by adjusting sound profiles to suit your needs. The UI is light and that helps with day-to-day usage. The Moto G was quite snappy, apps opened up quick with little to no lag. And with the 2GB variant here, we didn't have issues with the multitasking either. On that note, let's talk price. The Moto G with 2GB of RAM and 16GB of storage costs about 13,000 rupees or $220 US. Do note that the 8GB variant costs just 1,000 rupees or $40 lesser, and that has not only half the storage but half the RAM as well. If you look at the market, we see brands bring in phones with 2GB of RAM even in the sub 10,000 price range. So, buying a phone with a gig of RAM at this price just seems wrong. I highly recommend you pay the extra $1,000 and pick up the 16GB variant. So, to answer the usual question of if this phone deserves your hard-earned money or a spot in your pocket, my answer would be a resounding yes, for 16GB variant at least. For the price, it does perform well, the battery life is excellent. If you are in the market for a solid and reliable phone that offers good bang for the buck and a stellar software experience, well, look no further. A little disclaimer here, my conclusion here applies to the 16GB variant only. If you do want to pick one up right now, I leave direct links in the description below. Use that if you want to help the channel out. And I guess that's it for this video. Give us a thumbs up if you feel we deserved it and subscribe if you haven't already. Until next time, this is Ramesh from C4E Tech. You guys have a stunning day.